Welcome to our deep dive. Today we're going to crack open the autobiography of Jack Welch,
Jack Welch.
the legendary CEO of GE, and we're going to try to extract the leadership gold hidden within.
Yes.
We're not just summarizing the book, though.
Right.
We're really trying to pinpoint the actionable nuggets that you can use,
Yeah.
whether you're managing a team or
Right.
starting your own venture.
Absolutely.
We're just aiming for that next level in your career.
It's all about application.
Yeah.
It's one thing to read about it,
Right.
but then how do you use this stuff
Exactly.
in your day-to-day?
Yeah. And I think what makes Welch's story so captivating is that it's not your typical,
Yeah.
born leader narrative.
Right.
He had this reputation early on for being a little bit of a firecracker.
Yeah. A little bit of a crazy wild man early on.
He even blew up a factory.
Literally.
Literally.
Yeah.
But I think that's also what makes his journey so relatable.
Yes.
It's about growth. It's about transformation. It is.
It's about confronting reality head on.
And all of those are things that
A
we've
lot.
likely experienced in our own careers as well.
All right, so let's dive right in.
Okay.
The book kicks off with this story about young Jack playing hockey
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
reacting very poorly to a loss.
He did not like to lose.
Yeah.
Not one bit.
And this really sets the stage for a crucial lesson from his mother
Right.
that I think echoes throughout his leadership style.
Really shapes him.
So paint the picture for us.
Okay, so picture this.
Right.
Jack's high school hockey team is on a losing streak.
Okay.
And in the final game of the season, they lose again.
Ooh.
Jack, in his frustration and rage, flings his hockey stick across the ice.
Oh my gosh.
His mother, Grace,
Yeah.
witnessing this outburst, storms into the locker room
Oh no.
and delivers a line that would stick with him forever.
Okay.
She says, "If you don't know how to lose,
Mm-hmm.
you'll never know how to win."
Wow, that's powerful.
I know, right? And you can just imagine that moment,
Yeah.
how it would shape someone's perspective on setbacks,
Right.
especially someone as competitive
Mm-hmm.
as Jack Welch.
From that young age.
So it sounds like this idea of facing reality even when it's tough becomes this cornerstone of his leadership philosophy.
It's like this unflinching honesty with yourself first.
Right.
And then how that kind of bleeds out to
Yeah.
how you lead other people.
It's something that all of us can benefit from,
I think so.
whether we're evaluating a project's progress
Yeah,
or having that difficult conversation with a team member.
absolutely.
So after college, Jack had this big decision to make:
Yeah, you
a
did.
secure job at Exxon in Texas,
Right.
or join GE's plastics division in Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
Two very different paths.
Very different paths.
Yeah.
And he chose GE. So what drew him to that rather than that stability of Exxon?
Yeah, I think it was really about the opportunity.
Okay.
GE's Plastics Division was a younger team,
Okay.
smaller, and offered more room for him to have an impact and to grow.
So he saw that potential
He did.
to really make a difference.
He wanted to get out of the pile.
Yeah. He talks about that a lot.
Yes.
This desire to get out of the pile.
Yeah.
Even as a junior engineer.
And it wasn't just about standing out, though.
Okay.
It was about truly being the best.
So he wasn't content with simply doing his job.
No, he went above and beyond.
Okay.
Like, in his first year, he exceeded expectations by delivering this comprehensive analysis of
Yeah.
PPO's properties and cost compared to competitors.
So even at that entry level,
Right out of the gate,
he's already thinking strategically,
thinking big.
bringing extra value to the table.
Yeah, and trying to learn as much as possible.
It's a great example for anyone listening.
Absolutely.
No matter where you are in your career,
Doesn't matter what level.
take initiative, showcase your potential.
Yeah.
That move got him noticed by Reuben Goodoff,
Good off.
his boss's boss.
Oh, yeah.
Then things got a little rocky.
They did.
Jack almost quit GE in his first year.
Yeah.
What happened there?
So he was feeling stifled by the bureaucracy.
Hey.
He was frustrated by some of the company's policies. And he even had a job offer from another company.
Oh, wow. So this wasn't just a fleeting thought.
No, he was serious about leaving.
Yeah.
He was ready to go to Chicago.
So Goodoff steps in, right?
And Goodoff comes in.
He takes Jack out for this 4-hour dinner,
4-hour dinner.
convinces him to stay, and promises to shield him from the corporate red tape.
Yeah.
So what was it about that interaction that made such an impact on Jack?
I think it was Goodoff's belief in him.
Okay.
Like, he recognized Jack's talent and potential and his willingness to fight for Jack
Yeah.
showed that GE could be a place where talent was valued and nurtured, even if the system wasn't perfect.
So it was more than just a pep talk.
Much more.
Yeah.
It was like, I see you. I believe in you. I'm going to help you succeed here.
I think that's a really powerful message for anyone in a leadership role.
Absolutely.
It's about identifying and supporting those high potential individuals.
And sometimes that means advocating for them
Yeah.
and shielding them from obstacles.
But it wasn't just about keeping Jack at GE, though.
Right.
This experience really solidified a core leadership principle for him. This idea of differentiation.
Yes. Differentiate.
This comes up again and again
over and over again
in his career. So tell me more about that. How did that manifest?
So from that point forward, Jack believed in recognizing and rewarding top performers and weeding out those who weren't delivering.
So creating a very clear distinction.
Yes, a very clear distinction.
Between the A players and everybody else.
And he drew this parallel to sports teams.
Okay.
You need star players, but you also need everyone to work together.
It's finding that balance.
Command that balance. And this approach definitely had its critics, people who said it could damage morale or hurt teamwork.
Yeah.
But Jack firmly believed that treating everyone the same actually disincentivizes high performers and holds the whole team back.
So it's about creating that culture of excellence.
Yes.
Where everyone is striving to be their best.
Exactly.
But also requiring a leader who can have those tough conversations.
The hard conversations.
Make those difficult decisions.
Yes.
And speaking of tough situations,
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that Jack literally blew up a factory.
He did.
Early in his career.
Early on.
That's a pretty dramatic learning experience.
Trial by fire. Tell me more about that.
So he was in charge of this pilot plant.
Okay.
Testing a new chemical process when the whole thing exploded.
Oh, my goodness.
Luckily, no one was seriously injured.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it could have been a disaster.
It could have been career-ending.
Oh, absolutely. But it's remarkable how he handled the situation.
Yeah.
He didn't shy away from responsibility.
He took full ownership, even though he could have easily blamed others or downplayed his role.
It's almost like the what a lot of people would do in that situation.
Yes, very much so.
Cover it up.
Yes.
Try to get rid of the evidence.
He went to his superiors, explained what happened, and focused on the lessons learned.
This is huge.
Yes, it's a masterclass in accountability, but also in turning a failure into a learning opportunity.
And it sounds like this connects to this broader theme in Jack's leadership, this idea of encouraging risk-taking.
Yes.
And not punishing well-intentioned failures.
He wanted people to feel empowered to try new things, to push boundaries even if they didn't always succeed. He believed that punishing people for honest mistakes would only stifle innovation.
Right. You want to create that safe space for people to experiment.
And he had a great example of this later on with the Welch light bulb project.
Oh, yeah.
This was this bold attempt to create a revolutionary new light bulb that ultimately flopped.
It was a big failure, right?
It's a $50 million failure.
Most leaders would try to bury that, sweep it under the rug.
Pretend it never happened.
But Jack, what did he do?
He celebrated the effort.
Wow.
And promoted some of the key players.
So it was about sending that message that it's okay to take big swings.
It's okay to fail.
As long as you're learning from it.
Yeah, and that psychological safety is essential for fostering a culture of innovation.
It's a valuable lesson for all of us as leaders or aspiring leaders.
Absolutely.
To create those environments where people feel comfortable taking risks, knowing that they're not going to be penalized for failures.
As long as they were acting in good faith and learn from the experience.
So after the explosion incident, Jack's career continues to advance. He gets promoted to general manager of the polymer products operation. This is quite a jump in responsibility.
It is.
What were some of the key things he was focused on in this role?
So he was tasked with building a $10 million plant in Selkirk, New York, to produce this PPO plastic. But just after breaking ground, they discover a Mady flaw in the product.
Oh, no.
It became brittle at high temperatures, making it unusable for its intended purpose.
Another potential disaster.
Another one.
What did they do?
So it was a frantic 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Jack practically lived in the lab. They eventually found a solution by blending PPO with polystyrene and rubber.
Interesting.
They had to redesign the plant.
Wow.
But in the end, the product worked,
That's great.
And it became a huge success.
That's awesome.
They called it Neural.
Neural. Okay, so it sounds like these early years in plastics were quite a roller coaster.
They were a wild ride.
Triumphs and setbacks, but it's in those crucibles that his leadership style was forged.
Forged in fire.
Yeah, he was learning to be decisive, to adapt, to take risks.
Yes.
But most importantly, how to build and motivate a team.
Absolutely.
That can overcome any obstacle. And it sounds like he created this incredible sense of camaraderie within his team.
Yes.
Even within this massive corporation like GE. They celebrated every win.
Every win.
Big or small, with beer, pizza, even new suits. For everybody.
Yes, he made work fun.
Yeah.
And recognizing those achievements, no matter how small, was essential for building morale and momentum.
It sounds like a really fun place to work.
I would imagine so, but it wasn't all fun and games.
Right.
Jack was also developing this reputation for being tough, demanding, and brutally honest.
This sounds like the Jack Welch we know more of today.
Yes.
So tell me more about that management style.
It definitely wasn't for everyone.
I'm sure.
He had little patience for bureaucracy.
Okay.
And he wasn't afraid to confront underperformers directly.
So if you weren't pulling your weight,
you knew about it.
He let you know.
Yeah.
And this caused friction at times.
Yes, especially with those at headquarters who weren't used to his approach.
So this tension between headquarters, the field.
Yes, the field versus corporate.
Is a really fascinating dynamic. Could you give me an example of how that played out?
Sure. So there's this great story about a young lawyer named Bob Wright.
Bob Wright, okay.
Who Jack wanted to promote to general counsel for the plastics business. The corporate legal team rejected the idea, claiming that Bob was too young and inexperienced.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they're basically telling Jack no.
Yeah, they're saying, we know better.
You can't promote him.
And this is Jack's guy.
This is Jack's guy.
He wanted him there.
So how did he handle that?
Instead of accepting their decision, Jack found a workaround. He created a strategic planning role for Bob within the plastics division. Effectively bypassing the corporate roadblock.
Interesting. So he's already learning how to navigate those corporate water.
He's playing the game.
Yeah. And Bob thrived in that role.
He did.
Eventually becoming the national sales manager for plastics.
And much later, the president of NBC.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what a story.
It's incredible.
It's a great example of thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
But also of trusting your instincts.
Trust your gut.
When it comes to talent. It also speaks to his willingness to challenge the status quo.
He was not afraid to ruffle feathers.
Even when it meant going against powerful people within the organization.
He was not a yes man.
So after crushing it in plastics, Jack gets promoted again.
He does.
To head the chemical and metallurgical division.
Yeah.
This is a much larger, more diverse portfolio of businesses.
Much more complex.
So how did he approach this new challenge?
He wasted no time putting his stamp on the division. Making some bold moves right from the start.
Like what?
Like firing 6 regional sales managers in his first year.
In his first year, that's a statement.
That's a big statement.
So what was it about those managers that didn't fit his vision?
He had this very direct, almost abrasive style. If someone wasn't performing, he let them know. And he wasn't hesitant to make changes quickly.
So he was decisive.
Very decisive.
And he moved fast. And this might seem harsh to some.
Especially those who were used to the old way.
But he believed in setting clear expectations.
Oh, yes, clarity is good.
And holding people accountable. But it wasn't just about being tough. He was also incredibly skilled at identifying and promoting high-potential individuals.
Like John Opie.
Who he made national sales manager.
On their very first meeting.
So he saw something in him.
He saw something special.
Immediately. And his instincts were right.
They were spot on.
Opie became one of GE's top executives.
Yes.
This is a crucial reminder for all of us to be on the lookout for those hidden gems.
Those diamonds in the rough.
The people who might not fit the traditional mold. But possess that raw talent and potential to achieve great things.
Yes.
So it's around this time that Jack starts to really consider this possibility of running the entire company.
He got his eyes on the prize.
He even wrote in his performance review that his long-term goal was to become CEO.
He put it out there.
Put it out there.
Yeah.
But he knew that to reach that level, he needed to broaden his experience.
Absolutely.
And that opportunity came in 1973 when he was promoted to group executive, overseeing a $2 billion portfolio of businesses.
$2 billion. That's huge.
That's a massive jump.
It's a big step.
But there was a catch, right?
It was.
This new position was at GE headquarters in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Separate headquarters.
And Jack had always resisted leaving Pittsfield. He preferred to stay close to his roots and avoid the corporate politics.
He liked that small town feel.
Of headquarters.
Exactly.
So this promotion meant leaving his comfort zone and stepping into the heart of the corporate beast.
Yes.
It was a pivotal decision that would test his leadership skills and set him on that path towards the CEO position.
It was a turning point for sure.
We'll have to dive into that next time.
I can't wait.
Last time we left off with Jack facing this big decision, move to GE headquarters in Fairfield, Connecticut, and take on this larger role, or stay in Pittsfield.
Yeah, big decision.
Where he was comfortable, familiar with everything.
Right.
He chose to move, but it wasn't easy.
It was not.
So what was it like for him stepping into that new environment?
It was a real culture shock. Okay.
Fairfield was the antithesis of that informal entrepreneurial environment he had thrived in at Pittsfield.
So he's going from this, close-knit team where he's a big fish in a small pond to this headquarters.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he's a small fish.
Full of strangers.
Yeah, big pond.
And a lot of them probably saw him as an outsider.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that sounds isolating.
Very much so.
He left behind his support system, his network of friends. And now he's navigating this world of corporate politics.
The big leagues.
And to make matters worse, his boss, Vice Chairman Walter Dance, favored another candidate in the CEO race. So this was the first time that Jack really had to work for someone who wasn't in his corner.
Yeah, who wasn't a champion for him.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because even someone as outwardly confident as Jack Welch, experienced those moments of self-doubt.
Oh, yeah.
He felt isolated, uncertain about his standing.
He even considered leaving GE altogether.
He did.
To take the CEO job at Allied Chemical.
Yeah.
So he was really thinking about leaving.
He was.
But he didn't.
He didn't.
And I think that's really telling because it shows that even the most successful leaders are human.
Absolutely.
They have their vulnerabilities.
We all do.
And they go through those periods of uncertainty and self-doubt.
It's part of the journey.
But Jack, instead of, giving up or becoming resentful, he really just focuses on doing his job well.
Yeah, heads down.
Yeah, he had this enormous portfolio to manage.
He did major appliances, air conditioners, lighting products.
Wow.
Even television and radio stations.
It's a huge portfolio.
Billions of dollars.
And one of the things that struck him early on was the potential of GE credit.
Ah, GE Capital.
Yeah, at the time, it was a relatively small part of GE's business. But Jack saw this huge opportunity for growth in financial services.
He saw the future.
And again, it's a testament to his vision and ability to spot these opportunities that others might have missed.
Yeah, he had that knack for seeing where things were going.
GE Capital would eventually become one of GE's most profitable businesses.
Oh, yeah, a powerhouse.
But at the time, not everyone shared his enthusiasm to financial services.
Right.
A lot of people saw it as, a support function.
Yeah, kind of a back office thing.
Rather than this core growth driver.
Yeah, not the sexy part of the business.
But Jack had a different vision.
He did.
He wanted to transform GE Credit into this powerhouse. And that meant shaking things up.
Yeah, he had to challenge the existing leadership.
Okay.
Push them to think bigger and move faster.
He wanted to inject that same entrepreneurial spirit that he had fostered in plastics into GE Credit.
Yeah.
That must have been met with some resistance.
Oh, tons of resistance.
It's not easy changing the culture.
People don't like change.
Of an established division.
Especially in a company like GE.
Within a company like GE.
Yeah.
So how did he overcome that?
Well, he faced pushback for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And he had to make some tough decisions, replacing some managers who weren't adapting to his vision.
Right. So the ones who weren't on board.
If you weren't on the bus, you were off the bus.
They were gone.
Yeah. There's this amusing story in the book about an encounter he had with one of the insurance executives. So he asked this executive a basic question about the difference between facultative and treaty insurance. Instead of giving Jack a clear explanation, the executive basically told him he was too stupid to understand.
Wow.
I know, right?
It's pretty bold.
Yeah, talking to the future CEO of the company like that.
So what happened to that executive?
That executive was soon out of a job.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
But I think this story illustrates a key point about Jack's leadership style.
Okay.
He valued intelligence, of course.
Yeah.
But he also valued humility and the ability to explain complex things clearly.
It's about communication.
It is.
Being able to articulate your ideas in a way that everyone can understand.
Exactly. And that builds trust and alignment.
And speaking of talent, this is also where he discovers Larry Basidi.
Larry Basidi.
Who was really one of the architects of GE Capital's success.
One of his key guys.
And it happened in a rather unexpected setting.
Yeah, they met at a GE credit management meeting in Hawaii.
In Hawaii?
Of all places.
Okay.
And what did they end up doing?
What did they do?
Playing ping pong.
Ping pong.
An intense ping pong match, diving all over the place for the ball.
I could just picture Jack's competitive spirit coming out.
Oh, yeah, he wanted to win.
But he was impressed by Larry.
Yeah, he was impressed by Larry's drive and his insights.
So he saw in Larry the kind of talent he needed.
Yeah, to shake things up at GE Credit.
To help revamp GE Credit. So he convinced Larry to stay at GE.
Yeah.
And a year later, he made him the chief operating officer of GE Credit.
Yeah, put him in charge.
It was the start of a long and successful partnership.
A great partnership.
So it shows that talent can really be found in the most unexpected places.
It really can.
Sometimes it's about stepping outside of that traditional interview setting.
Yeah, get to know someone, see what they're really made of.
To really get a sense of their potential.
Exactly.
So while Jack was pushing for growth in consumer products and financial services, he also faced some setbacks.
He did. He wasn't always winning.
One of the most significant was the failed acquisition of Cox Communications.
Ah, yes, Cox Communications.
This was a bold move.
It was.
Jack recognized the potential of cable TV early on and wanted to get GE back in the game.
Back in the game.
He believed Cox would be this perfect fit.
Yeah, a great strategic fit.
So he spent over a year negotiating the deal.
A lot of time and energy.
Even transferred Bob Wright down to Atlanta to head up Cox's cable interest.
Yeah, getting ready for the acquisition.
In anticipation of this acquisition. But then the Cox family got cold feet.
They did.
They realized they had undervalued their business, and they started raising the price.
Yeah, classic negotiation tactic.
And this seems to go against his, be number one or number two philosophy.
Right.
If he believed cable was going to be so huge, why not just pay up and get the deal done?
It was a tough call.
Yeah.
But Jack ultimately walked away.
He walked away from the deal.
Yeah, he recognized that it no longer made financial sense.
So it was a disciplined decision.
It was.
He was willing to cut his losses.
Which is hard to do.
Even though he had invested so much time and political capital.
Absolutely.
It must have been hard to let that go.
Yeah, especially after all that effort.
But it shows his commitment to making decisions based on sound business principles.
Not letting his ego get in the way.
Not just his ego.
Right.
He learned from this experience that GE, as this large company, needed to focus on initiatives that would drive consistent above-average earnings growth.
Right.
Even if that meant sacrificing some exciting opportunities.
Yeah, sometimes you got to say no to the good.
To focus on the great.
Exactly.
So he was learning to balance those entrepreneurial instincts with the realities of managing this complex organization.
Yeah. It's a tough balancing act.
And speaking of complex,
yeah.
Let's go back to the CEO succession race.
Okay, the race to the top.
So Jack's competing against these other highly qualified executives, and he wasn't getting any feedback from his boss, Walter Dance, who we know was supporting a different candidate.
Yeah.
So that must have been incredibly stressful.
Oh, yeah. A lot of pressure.
Everybody working hard to impress Red Jones, the chairman.
Right.
But nobody knew where they stood.
It was a black box.
And then it came the infamous airplane interviews.
Airplane interviews.
Tell me about those.
So Reg Jones had this unique way of assessing potential successors. He would invite each candidate into his office, and he would pose this hypothetical scenario.
Okay.
You and I are flying in a company plane, and the plane crashes. We're both killed.
Oh, wow.
Who should be the next chairman of GE?
That's intense.
It's a real gut check.
It really forces you to think beyond your own ambition and consider what's best for the company.
Exactly.
So how did Jack respond to that?
At first, he stumbled.
Okay.
Like most of the candidates, he tried to argue his way out of the scenario,
Okay.
saying that, he would have survived the crash
Right.
and taken control.
Yeah.
But Reg wouldn't let him off the hook.
He pushed back.
He said, no, you're both dead.
You're dead.
You got to name someone else.
You got to pick somebody.
Yeah, so Jack had to put his ego aside and make a real assessment
Of the other candidates.
of the other candidates.
So who did he choose?
He finally said his vote would go to Ed Hood,
Ed Hood, okay.
who ran the technical products and services business. He praised Hood's intelligence and thoughtfulness. He even suggested Tom Vanderslice as the number 2 guy,
Tom Vanderslice.
citing his decisiveness and toughness.
So he's really thinking through this.
Yeah, he's taking it seriously.
This was a pivotal moment for Jack.
Yeah,
He's being forced to confront his own ambition
right.
and really evaluate what's best for GE.
It was a humbling experience.
Yeah.
It showed that true leadership wasn't just about wanting the top job. It was about recognizing the strengths of others.
Yeah.
And putting the company's needs above your own.
But that initial interview didn't go as well as Jack had hoped.
Yeah, it didn't.
It revealed that he wasn't quite ready to let go of his own ambition and think about the company's best interests.
In a truly objective way.
Yeah.
He was still thinking about himself.
But then Reg called him back
He did.
for a second airplane interview.
Round 2.
Round 2.
Yeah.
This time, things were different.
Okay.
Reg started by saying, remember our airplane conversation? Catcher, you killed me.
Ouch.
Well, this time I'm done, but you survived.
Yeah.
Now, who should be chairman of GE?
So he's giving him another chance?
Another chance.
Yeah.
Did he seize it?
He did. This time there was no hesitation.
Okay.
He confidently declared that he was the right choice for the job.
That's the Jack Welch we know.
Yeah.
So what do you think caused that shift?
I think the first interview really forced him to confront his ego
Okay.
and think about the qualities needed to lead GE.
Yeah.
He realized that it wasn't enough to just be ambitious
Right.
and driven.
He had to demonstrate that commitment.
A real commitment to
The
better,
long-term success.
to something bigger than himself.
Yeah. So it was really a powerful lesson
It was.
in self-awareness and humility.
Yeah. And by embracing the reality of the situation and presenting himself as the leader GE needed.
Not just the leader he wanted to be.
Exactly.
He took a major step toward securing that top job.
He did. He proved he was ready.
We left off with Jack acing that second airplane interview.
Yeah, he really nailed it.
He finally convinced Reg Jones that he was the right person to lead GE.
He was the chosen one.
It must have been an incredible feeling, getting that news.
Oh, yeah. Imagine the weight of that moment.
Yeah.
Knowing you're about to take the helm of this massive company.
This iconic company.
This legendary company.
It wasn't just a personal victory for Jack.
Right.
It was really a turning point for GE.
It was.
Reg Jones had chosen someone who was in many ways a departure from the traditional GE executive.
Yeah, he was a different breed.
Jack was known for his directness, his informality, and this willingness to shake things up.
He was not afraid to break the mold.
The Wall Street Journal even described him as a live wire.
Yeah, a live wire.
People sensed that he was going to bring a very different style of leadership to GE. And that's exactly what Reg Jones was hoping for.
He knew GE needed to change to become fast, or more agile.
More competitive.
Yeah, in a rapidly changing world.
And he believed that Jack was the person to lead that transformation.
He was the change agent.
But it's interesting because even with the CEO title in hand, Jack still had these insecurities.
Yeah.
He worried about his speech impediment, his receding hairline,
like comb over,
even his height.
He wanted to be taller.
It's funny, it really humanizes him,
Yeah.
You've got this larger-than-life figure, and he's dealing with the same self-doubts that so many of us face.
It makes him relatable.
It does.
It reminds us that even those who seem to have it all still grapple with those insecurities.
It's a good reminder that we shouldn't let those inner voices hold us back from pursuing our goals.
Don't let fear stop you.
So Jack takes over as CEO on April 1st, 1981.
April Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
What was his vision for GE? What were some of his top priorities?
He wanted to inject that small company spirit back into this sprawling organization.
He felt GE had become too bureaucratic.
Too slow.
Too comfortable.
Too complacent.
He wanted to cultivate this culture of speed, agility, and accountability.
Yeah, he wanted to make GE lean and mean.
And it sounds like he was drawing inspiration from his experience of the plastics division.
Absolutely.
Where he thrived in that fast-paced entrepreneurial environment.
Yeah, he wanted to bring that energy to the whole company.
moving to those more traditional, slower-moving businesses.
Yeah, like power systems.
He also knew that GE needed to focus on its core strengths
Right.
and divest businesses that weren't performing
Mm.
or didn't fit strategically.
Yeah, if it wasn't a winner, get rid of it.
This sounds like the beginning of his famous be number one or number two strategy.
He recognized that being a leader in every market they served was essential for long-term success.
So if a business unit couldn't achieve that,
Right.
it was time to either sell it or shut it down.
Yeah, tough decisions.
And this approach might seem ruthless to some,
It did to some people.
but it was really about ensuring
Yeah.
that resources were allocated to those areas where GE could truly excel.
Focus on your strength.
So transforming a company like GE is no small feat.
It's a huge undertaking.
How did he go about changing the culture and breaking down those bureaucratic barriers?
Well, he started by overhauling the traditional planning process.
Okay.
He hated those long scripted presentations.
Yeah.
And he wanted a more open, honest dialogue with his team.
He valued candor above all else.
Absolutely. He wanted people to speak their minds.
There's that story in the book about a planning session with Art Boucher, the head of R&D.
Yeah, I remember that.
Who came in with this stack of pre-written questions.
Yeah, all prepared.
And Jack just tossed them aside.
He didn't want to hear it.
He wanted a real conversation.
Yeah, genuine back and forth.
Not a rehearsed performance.
Dog and pony show.
It was a clear signal that things were going to be different under his leadership. He also fostered a more collaborative and informal atmosphere at the executive level.
Yeah, he wanted to break down those barriers.
He took his team on retreats, hoping to build camaraderie.
Yeah, team building.
It's amazing how much emphasis he placed on relationships and building trust.
It's all about people.
Even while he was pushing for these radical changes.
Yeah, you want to bring people along with you.
He understood that change is always easier when people feel like they're part of the process.
Yeah, not just being dictated to.
He also recognized the danger of what he called superficial congeniality.
Yeah, where people are polite on the surface, but distrustful and backstabbing behind the scenes.
That's toxic.
It is.
He wanted to replace that with a culture of transparency, accountability, and constructive conflict.
Healthy debate.
Yeah. One of his key priorities was simplifying the organization, getting rid of those unnecessary layers of management.
Yeah, too much bureaucracy. Right.
He used this analogy of wearing too many sweaters.
Yeah.
Too much insulation prevents you from feeling the real temperature.
You got to be close to the action.
Yeah, he wanted everyone to be closer to the action, to feel the heat of the market, and to be empowered to make decisions quickly. There's that great story about a plant tour he took in Orlando.
Oh, yeah.
Where he discovered 4 layers of management.
Oh, I know.
Supervising the boiler operation.
4 layers for a boiler.
He couldn't believe it.
It's crazy.
It was a perfect example of how bureaucracy can slow things down and stifle innovation.
It's like a disease.
He wanted to streamline the organization and give people more autonomy.
Empower them.
And this approach wasn't without its challenges, of course.
Right.
He faced resistance, particularly in places like Schenectady, New York.
Yeah.
Where GE's power turbine business had become a little bit complacent.
They were resting on their laurels.
Yeah, but amidst all these challenges, he found inspiration in a rather unlikely place.
Okay.
GE's troubled nuclear reactor business.
Oh, yeah.
In San Jose, California.
Not exactly a success story.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive to find inspiration in a struggling business.
Right.
What was it about that nuclear team that resonated with him?
They were facing a brutal reality.
Okay.
The 3 Mile Island accident had devastated public support for nuclear power.
It was a tough time for the industry.
Yeah, the future was uncertain.
But instead of clinging to the past, they were willing to make those tough choices.
They adapted.
So when Jack challenged them to shut down their reactor production and focus on building a service and fuel business, they didn't hesitate.
They were decisive.
They embraced the reality of the situation and developed this bold plan to transform their business.
That's what impressed Jack.
Yeah.
Their courage and their decisiveness.
It reinforced his belief in facing reality head on.
Even when it's painful.
Even when it's painful and making those tough decisions necessary to adapt and thrive.
That's the key to survival.
So what does all this mean for us?
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways?
The big lessons.
From Jack Welch's leadership journey?
Well, I think one of the most important lessons is the power of confronting reality. Whether we're evaluating our own performance, assessing a project, making difficult decisions,
Yeah.
it's crucial to see things as they are.
Not as we wish they were.
Exactly. Honesty is the foundation of effective leadership.
He also demonstrated the importance of being adaptable and willing to change.
The world is constantly evolving,
Yeah.
and those who cling to the past are destined to fall behind.
And finally, he really highlighted the importance of building a strong team and empowering people to do their best work.
Create a culture of trust,
Accountability,
open communication.
where everyone feels valued and empowered to contribute.
Yeah, give people ownership.
So Jack Welch's story is really a testament to the fact that leadership isn't about fitting a certain mold. It's about finding your own strengths, embracing reality, and building a team that shares your vision.
It's about constantly learning, adapting, and challenging yourself to be better.
So that's it for our deep dive into Jack Welch's leadership journey.
I hope you enjoyed it.
We've uncovered some really powerful lessons here
Yeah.
that we can all apply in our own lives.
Absolutely.
And remember, leadership isn't about titles or positions. It's about taking ownership, embracing challenges, and inspiring others to achieve great things.
That's what it's all about.